What's up, everybody? If you want to join the greatest online Star Wars community, the Fandom Menace, make sure you hit that subscribe button before today's video starts, so you don't miss out on any updates and you're always the first to know when our newest videos go live.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
We're just one day away from Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and the buzz on the street isn't too positive. If I sound happy, it's because I am. Star Wars Episode 9 is a big old fat batch of I told you so. What did I tell you? Well, this trilogy is nothing but member berries. This trilogy is nothing but hollow plot points thrown together with nostalgia for the sake of selling old merchandise. And that's what the masses are finally seeing. Well, at least the critics. Critical reviews for this film have not been overly kind. You know, we talk about Rotten Tomatoes, how The Last Jedi was obscenely positive from critical reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. We had almost a 50-point discrepancy at one time. Now, because of the way Captain Marvel has changed the game, Rotten Tomatoes scores from critics and users aren't released the same day. So right now on Rotten Tomatoes, The Rise of Skywalker has a 58% with 143 total reviews. No audience score available. Now that's not very good if you ask me. That is the second lowest Star Wars film according to Rotten Tomatoes, with only Star Wars Episode 1 being lower with a 53%. So you have to ask yourself, will Star Wars Episode 9 get a lower critical score on Rotten Tomatoes than The Phantom Menace? You know, it's telling when we're entering Jar Jar Binks territory. For decades, Jar Jar Binks was the low mark for Star Wars. Okay, Jar Jar was a joke that was uttered in Clerks 2. Jar Jar Binks is referenced in Red Letter Media reviews. Jar Jar Binks was the litmus test for garbage characters. But we now have a new Star Wars film with Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, the Emperor, the droids, Chewbacca, the Millennium Falcon, Lando Calrissian, and the film is still so bad that it's going to be closer to The Phantom Menace than any other Star Wars film. Now you may be saying to yourself, The Phantom Menace isn't that bad. I actually enjoyed that film. That's fine. It does have some epic moments. Lightsaber duel mainly. But what we're learning about this film is the absolute lack of originality and what I've heard called desperation by Jeremy Jahns. You know, people want to give Star Wars all this credit. Oh, these are bold decisions. These are brave decisions. These are so subversive to the expectations of the audience. But they're really not. They're lazy. They're stupid. They're modern-day Star Wars. Remember, folks, Hayden Christensen's Star Wars films are so much higher in terms of rating on Rotten Tomato than this new Disney thing. So what does that mean to you? To me, it means the prequels weren't as low as we could get. We've reached the bottom. People say, oh, well, you said this about the prequels decades ago, and now look where we are. Yeah, but we are scraping the bottom of the barrel. From the leaks, from the news, this film is Return of the Jedi 2.0, which I don't think anyone ever in the world has thought, I'd like another Return of the Jedi, a remake, a lesser remake, even at that. Well, that's what you're going to get, complete with speeder bikes, Ewoks, Endor, and of course the Emperor. Now, with all these stupid creative decisions that were made, who will Disney blame? I've seen the argument online from Scott Mendelson and other shills that it's the Star Wars fans that ruined Star Wars. But to Scott and everyone else who uses that stupid argument, how are we to blame? Did we make the films? You know, you want to blame the Fandom Menace? Did any of us write Star Wars Episode 9 or 8 or 7? No, we did not. We just paid our money to go see the film. We didn't shill online to get free access to review a movie a couple days early. The people that made the film are Chris Terrio, who's the writer, J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, who's at the very tip-top of Star Wars. Those people are to blame. Not us, not the fans, not the people who pay their money, buy the merchandise, do all this stuff to keep Star Wars alive. But we don't get to make the movies, and that's where your argument falls apart. Before, it was trolls, it was Russian bots, it was a small vocal minority. But at the end of the day, it was Disney themselves who did what they did to Star Wars. I mean, who thought a young Han Solo movie was a good idea? Nobody really talked about that film for the adventures and the excitement of Han Solo. The story around that film was Lando Calrissian was a pansexual, and most people are like, what's that? And then the other story, the defining story that is all she wrote about that film is, it was a box office failure. # Solo lost money. I don't know if Star Wars Episode 9 will lose money. I'm going to go, no, it will not. But with bad Rotten Tomatoes scores, usually equate to bad word of mouth. And with Star Wars Episode 7, people bought in. Everybody bought in because they were excited. It was the hype. It was new. Nostalgia was flowing through their veins. It was 1977 all over again for these people. Funnily enough, the movie's the closest to the 1977 original, but that's a story for another time. I hate you, Maz Kanata. But then we get to Episode 8, and people kind of woke up to a lot of it. Not everyone picked up on the nostalgia blinders that they were wearing, but they did pick up on the quality of the film. People didn't like that Luke Skywalker ran off, did what he did, was a bad character. And so fans clashed with critics. And when that happened, the blame game started. As I said earlier, Russian bots, trolls, all of that stuff. And it just wasn't really a good look. Now, 2 years later, they can't do it again. Captain Marvel really showed the bias of Rotten Tomatoes so much that they changed the website. So now under the new rules, the new protection for Disney that Rotten Tomatoes and all these other websites have gone to, they still can't get an overly positive review for this film because it is absolute dog shit. Well, okay, Jeremy John says it's not memorable in T-1 day. But you'll have to come back tomorrow to hear our review live here on the channel. But the average rating is a 6.43 out of 10. There are 143 reviews, 83 fresh, 60 rotten. And the audience score, again, is not available. This is not really the first time that people were questioning the quality of this film. The trailer came out, but it wasn't that popular. You know, it took almost 2 months for it to reach 32 million views, but it only took 5 days for Black Widow to reach the same amount of views. Another thing is the tickets. You know, right now, I can buy tickets for tomorrow night's first IMAX 3D showing, every digital 3D showing, every standard showing. All sorts of showings in my local area are available first night. There are 15 screenings available for standard showtimes at my local AMC, and everyone has a lot of tickets available. When Avengers Endgame tickets went on sale, websites crashed. Do you know what happened when Star Wars Episode 9 tickets came out? Nothing. They told us the first hour was record sales, but then again they told us that for Solo. And we know that Solo lost money. And now we're back at Episode 9, and the possibility of a lowered opening weekend is becoming a reality. First it was 220, then 175. Now projections go lower. Maybe 150. Maybe the movie opens to $100 million. Imagine a world where Star Wars Episode 9 grosses $925 million worldwide, which is around the same amount that it grossed domestically with Episode 7. That would be the ultimate embarrassment, because that goes to show you the audience just didn't come back. Yes, of course you have to factor in repeat viewings, but then again, that also is the audience not coming back. Not everyone was going to buy a ticket to see this movie. And if the audience that loves Star Wars all bought one ticket, that's great. Your movie's doing well. But if you want it to become the biggest thing ever, you gotta have those repeat viewings. Personally, I went to see The Avengers 4 times in 2012. Was it because of some sense of duty to Disney? No, it's because I had a phenomenal time every time I went to see that movie. By the way, it was also a Paramount picture before Disney really had complete control over the MCU, but I digress. It would take a whole hell of a lot for me to go back and see any of these Disney Star Wars movies again. Like tonight, we're going to be doing our drunk commentary for episodes 7 and 8. I don't want to watch Star Wars episodes 7 and 8 for fun. I don't sit down and think to myself, I'm in the mood for some good quality entertainment. What do I want to watch? Star Wars, The Last Jedi, or The Force Awakens? Never. You know, I've seen the original Star Wars countless times. It's not even going to be fun to try to guess. I've watched it on every format that I've owned. I used to watch it, rewind it, rewatch it again. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Maybe number 2. Should be the first one, but some dumb changes from George Lucas just keep that from happening. But my point is, I love it. And the original trilogy, overall, fantastic. Almost perfect. These new ones don't have the same market appeal. They don't have the same magic. They don't have the same power over the audience. I find it very hard to believe that the next generation of Star Wars fans are going to come back and look at these and go, that was the Star Wars I grew up with. Why? Because there's just so much competition for Star Wars these days, and it's all owned by Disney. In many ways, Disney is putting Star Wars out of business itself by having it compete against blockbusters like Avengers, Frozen, Toy Story, and the like. And you're thinking, they're not competing, they come out months apart. Yes, but parents who have kids have a finite amount of money. If your kid's really into Toy Story and you buy Buzz Lightyear and Woody and a couple of the other characters and then the DVD and the Blu-ray, that kid's going to be into Toy Story that year. Star Wars may not be as appealing. You know, if you have a daughter that's into Frozen, she might not care about Rey. Resources are finite, and to get kids to buy into every property that you own with merchandise, movie tickets, Disney theme park sales, which, don't get me started because Disney dropped the ball in the Star Wars theme park, which, how? How in a million years could you have a Star Wars theme park come out and be unsuccessful? Well, it's the reality we live in, folks. It's kind of funny. So I've been going on long enough. Consider this like a eulogy for Disney Star Wars. A quick recap of why I was so disappointed in the saga from Disney as a whole. This is the worst Star Wars trilogy. There is not a single moment from the prequels that are as bad as the things we've received in the sequel trilogy. Disney Star Wars has taken the core elements of Star Wars, tried to make it something that it's not, and ruined it in the process, ruined the characters, ruined the fan base. You're very right to be angry, because for all of his imperfections, George Lucas still kept Star Wars together. From 1977 till 2011, Star Wars, it was fun. You know, Lucas knew when its time was up, especially after Return of the Jedi, and kind of rode the 80s out with Indiana Jones and other personal projects, investing in technologies and such. And then in the 90s, when people wanted Star Wars back, when the kids that were younger or older and they wanted new books, toys, PC games, all that stuff, Star Wars came back in full force. It swept up my generation, and we all became lifelong fans. If the movies were crap, they wouldn't be remembered. There are a lot of Star Wars clones that people aren't talking about. There's a lot of bad sci-fi that nobody remembers. If Disney Star Wars was the Star Wars of the 70s, it would be shit that would be never remembered. Be honest with yourselves, folks, because critics are finally waking up. Of course they like some things, but overall it's not too positive. Grace Randolph, who usually is pretty blindly loyal to certain things, had a lot of things to call out about this film. Jeremy Jahns apologized for the thumbnail and the hype that you thought he was going to have for the film. I believe it had his second lowest rating that he could possibly give. So, this is where we are. And tomorrow night, we're going to be there in the theater to review it for you guys. We'll have a long live stream afterwards. It's a party tomorrow night. I may sound down right now because I'm on very limited sleep and I've been up for a long, long time. But tomorrow is D-Day. It is the big day. It is the Super Bowl for the fandom menace. We were right all along. Everything that was said about us, all the criticisms that were hurled, all the Chuck Wendigs and all the shit-covered boots that they want us to eat have fallen away. Those people have gone. Disney Star Wars has pushed on and has become its own worst enemy, and it has self-destructed. So folks, down in the comments section, let me know what you think of the Rotten Tomatoes score. Tell me what your box office guess is, and tell me if you have tickets available. You don't have to tell me where you are, just tell me if you have the earliest screening possible available. As I've said, they're all available where I live, and I live in a major city. I don't live out in the middle of the woods, and I don't live in New York, but I also live in a city where I have about, 10 movie theaters within a 30-minute drive, so there we go. So folks, thank you for watching. Make sure you have your subscription notifications turned on because we've had some words that YouTube's been turning them off. You don't want to miss when we go live. It'll be tomorrow night, about 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Could be a little earlier depending on how bad traffic is getting out of the theater, but be prepared. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be on camera. We're going to be playing games. We're going to have a call-in session. So if you want to call in the show after you've seen the film and talk about Disney Star Wars, you can. We'll make all that information known tomorrow night, live on the air. So do not miss out. It is the biggest event of the year, episode 200 of World Class Bullshitters, and then we're gone for the rest of the year. But I'll have videos up on the channel throughout the rest of the year. So folks, thank you for everything. And as always, be excellent to each other.